The August sun in Oakland shone relentlessly over the city streets, creating heat waves that danced on the asphalt like ethereal summer ghosts. Steph Curry drove his silver Toyota Prius down Telegraph Avenue, returning from another individual training session at the private gym where he had spent the last 3 hours perfecting his shot, sweating every drop of dedication that had made him a basketball legend. It was a typical Tuesday at the end of August, one of those days when the heat seemed to have its own weight, pressing against the shoulders of anyone brave enough to venture into the streets during the hottest hours of the day. The car's air conditioning murmured softly, creating a comforting contrast to the golden inferno that dominated the world outside. Steph was immersed in his thoughts, reflecting on the technical adjustments he had practiced, when the traffic light at the corner of Telegraph and 51st Street turned red, forcing him to stop. It was in this moment of forced pause that he saw something that would change not only the rest of his day, but potentially the course of several lives. On the right side of the street, under a small shadow cast by a solitary tree, stood a woman who immediately captured his attention. She was visibly pregnant, with a belly that suggested she was in her final months of pregnancy, perhaps 7 or 8 months. Her clothes were simple but clean, a light blue blouse that stretched gently over her belly, and a dark skirt that reached her knees. You can perceive that there are moments in life when something ordinary becomes extraordinary simply because of the purity of human determination that you witness. There was something in that woman's posture, in the way she held a small wicker basket filled with what appeared to be homemade sweets, that radiated a dignity that transcended her circumstances. James Wilson, a middle-aged man who was hurrying down the sidewalk, stopped briefly to buy something from her basket. Steph observed the transaction through his car window, the gentle way she explained her products, the genuine smile that illuminated her face when the man chose some items, the sincere gratitude with which she received the payment. "It's not every day you see this," Steph murmured to himself, his eyes fixed on the scene unfolding before him. There was something deeply moving about the image of that pregnant woman under the scorching sun, transforming what could be seen as desperation into a demonstration of dignity through honest work. The traffic light was still red, giving Steph more time to observe. He noticed how she constantly adjusted a small towel over the sweets to protect them from direct sunlight, how she moved slowly but with purpose, compensating for the extra weight she carried. Her hands, he could see even from a distance, were careful and delicate when handling her products. Anthony Jang, another passerby, approached the woman with curiosity. Steph slightly lowered his car window, allowing fragments of the conversation to reach him. Her voice was soft but clear, explaining that she had made all the sweets herself that morning, that she used only fresh ingredients, that each item was prepared with the same care she would dedicate to food for her own family. How many times in life do you witness someone transforming adversity into opportunity through pure willpower? Steph felt something move in his chest, a mixture of admiration and curiosity that he couldn't ignore. There were stories written in the soft lines of that woman's face, stories that he suddenly felt compelled to know. The traffic light changed to green, but Steph didn't move immediately. Cars behind him began to honk softly, bringing him back to the reality of traffic. He moved forward a few meters, but then made an impulsive decision that surprised him. He made a right turn at the next corner, went around the block, and parked his car in a nearby space. Robert Kim, a local merchant who knew Steph by sight, waved when he saw him getting out of the car. "Hey, Steph, how's it going?" he greeted casually. But Steph just waved back, his attention completely focused on the pregnant woman who continued at her post under the tree. You can feel that sometimes the universe places us exactly where we need to be, at the exact moment we need to be there. Steph walked slowly toward the woman, not wanting to startle her or make her feel uncomfortable with his approach. He had learned over the years that his fame could sometimes create unintentional barriers between him and ordinary people he genuinely wanted to meet. "Good afternoon," Steph said softly when he got close enough, his tone deliberately casual and friendly. "May I see what you have there?" The woman looked up at him, and Steph was immediately struck by the clarity and intelligence he saw there. Her eyes were dark brown, with small expression lines that suggested someone who smiled frequently, despite any difficulty she might be facing. She showed no immediate signs of recognizing him, which Steph found refreshing. "Of course," she responded, her voice carrying a soft accent that he couldn't immediately identify. "I have brigadeiros, beijinhos, quindins, and some chocolate cookies that I made this morning. Everything homemade, everything fresh." Steph looked at the variety carefully arranged in the basket. Each sweet was individually wrapped in transparent cellophane paper, some decorated with small colored ribbons. It was obvious that much care and attention to detail had been invested in the presentation. "They look delicious," Steph said sincerely. "Did you make all of these yourself?" A genuine smile spread across the woman's face. "Yes, sir. I wake up at 5 in the morning every day to prepare everything. I use my grandmother's recipes. She taught me when I was little in Brazil." Tyler Brooks, a young man who was passing by on a bicycle, slowed down to observe the interaction, clearly recognizing Steph. But Steph was completely absorbed in the conversation, fascinated not only by the sweets, but by the story that was beginning to unfold before him. "Brazil?" Steph asked with genuine interest. "How long have you been here in the United States?" 12 years, she replied, carefully adjusting the towel over some of the sweets that were receiving direct sunlight. "I came here to work as a nurse. I studied a lot, learned English, passed all the exams. It was my dream to help people and build a better life for my family." The word "was" didn't go unnoticed by Steph. There was a note of melancholy in that response that suggested something had changed, that dreams had encountered unexpected obstacles. "And do you still work as a nurse?" Steph asked gently, suspecting he already knew the answer. The woman hesitated for a moment, her eyes turning to her prominent belly. "Not at the moment," she said, her voice carrying a mixture of sadness and determination. "I had some complications early in pregnancy. I needed rest. When I tried to return, the hospital where I worked said they couldn't guarantee me the hours I needed." Connor Smith, another passerby, approached and bought some sweets, creating a natural pause in the conversation. Steph observed how the woman interacted with each customer. Always polite, always grateful, always proud of her products. There was no self-pity in her approach, only professionalism and dignity. How is it possible to maintain so much grace under pressure? How does someone transform what could be seen as a desperate situation into an opportunity to demonstrate strength and determination? Steph was beginning to realize that he was in the presence of someone truly special. "So, you decided to make sweets?" Steph asked when they were alone again. "I decided that I wasn't going to stay home waiting for life to happen to me," she replied, with a conviction that made Steph shiver. "My grandmother always said that our hands were made to create, not to beg. So I use my hands to create something good, something that people want, something that allows me to maintain my dignity while supporting my family." Diana Thompson, a woman who was passing with her small children, stopped to buy some sweets. The children were fascinated by the colorful variety, and the pregnant woman bent down awkwardly to talk to them at their eye level, patiently explaining each type of sweet with the patience of a natural educator. "I'll take some of each," Steph said, when Diana and the children moved away. "They really look incredible." "Thank you very much, sir," she said, beginning to carefully pack a selection of the sweets. "May I ask your name? I like to know my customers." Steph hesitated for a moment. He had learned to be cautious about revealing his identity too quickly, not out of snobbery, but because it sometimes changed the dynamics of interactions in ways he preferred to avoid. "Steph," he said simply. "I'm Maria," she replied, extending a small but strong hand. "Maria dos Santos. It's a pleasure to meet you, Steph." Her handshake was firm, direct, the kind of greeting that conveys character and integrity. Steph immediately felt that he was in the presence of someone who faced life head-on, without excuses or lamentations. "The pleasure is mine, Maria," Steph said, accepting the small bag of sweets she had prepared. "May I ask, how long do you stay here every day?" "From 10 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon," she replied, "except when it's raining very hard. The baby doesn't like it when I stand for too long, so I take breaks when I need to." The dedication implicit in that response, 7 hours a day, under the Oakland sun, in the final months of pregnancy, hit Steph like a punch to the stomach. Here was someone who wasn't just surviving, but maintaining her dignity and purpose in circumstances that would defeat many people. "Maria," Steph said, his voice carrying a genuine curiosity. He couldn't hide. "May I ask why you chose this specific location?" What she answered next would plant a seed in his heart that would grow to become something that would change not only both their days, but potentially the course of their lives. Great truths about human character are often revealed not in moments of triumph, but in moments when people choose to face adversity with dignity, transforming obstacles into opportunities through pure willpower and refusal to accept defeat as a permanent option. Maria dos Santos looked at Steph with those brown eyes that seemed to carry stories of 1,000 mornings of hope and determination, and then gestured gently to the small shadow that the tree provided, as if it were her personal office, her sanctuary of dignity amidst the urban chaos of Oakland. "I chose this place," Maria began, carefully adjusting her position to relieve the weight of pregnancy, "because it's where I can see real people, not just cars passing by, but people walking, people living their lives, people who can stop and maybe want something sweet to brighten their day. You can feel that sometimes the simplest choices reveal a profound understanding of human nature." Steph observed how Maria had thought strategically about her small business, choosing a location that maximized not only visibility, but genuine human connection. "But there's more than that," Maria continued, her voice gaining a more intimate quality, as if she were sharing something she rarely verbalized. "When I worked as a nurse at Highland Hospital, I passed this corner every day going to work. It was always a good moment of my day, seeing people starting their mornings, children going to school, workers on their way to their jobs. Kevin O'Connor, a middle-aged man wearing a construction uniform, approached and bought 2 brigadeiros. Maria talked with him about the heat of the day, asked about his work, treated him with the same respect and attention she would give to any important person. Steph watched, fascinated, how she transformed each transaction into a moment of genuine human connection. "So, when everything changed," Maria continued after Kevin moved away, "when I could no longer be a nurse, at least for now, I thought, where can I still help people? Where can I still bring a little joy to someone's day?" Steph felt something move in his chest. The way Maria had recontextualized her situation, from job loss to opportunity to serve in a different way, revealed a mentality that he recognized in himself and in the most resilient athletes he knew. "And you mentioned complications in pregnancy," Steph said gently, not wanting to be intrusive but genuinely concerned. "Are you okay now?" A soft smile crossed Maria's face. "I'm better. Thank you for asking. In the beginning, I had high blood pressure, a lot of stress. The doctor said I needed rest, less pressure. Ironically, losing my job ended up being good for the baby, even though it was difficult for our financial situation." Marcus Williams, a young man with headphones, stopped abruptly when he saw Steph. His eyes widened with recognition, but Steph made a subtle gesture asking for discretion. Marcus understood, bought some sweets from Maria, and moved away without making a fuss, respecting the moment. "My husband, Carlos, works 2 jobs now," Maria continued, completely oblivious to the small interaction. "He works in construction in the morning and cleans offices at night. He leaves home at 5 in the morning and returns at 10 at night. He's a good man, works a lot, but it's still not enough to cover all our needs." The image of a family struggling with so much dignity and determination touched something deep in Steph's heart. He thought about his own journey, the difficulties he had faced, but recognized that his challenges paled in comparison to what Maria and Carlos were navigating. "So I decided I wasn't going to stay home feeling useless," Maria said, her voice gaining strength. "I wasn't going to accept charity. I wasn't going to ask anyone for money. I was going to find a way to contribute, to use my skills to help our family." Stephen Rodriguez, a food delivery person who passed by on a bicycle, waved to Maria as if they knew each other. "Hi, Maria! How's the baby today?" he shouted. She waved back. "He's kicking a lot. I think he's going to be a soccer player." The familiarity of this interaction showed Steph that Maria had become part of the social fabric of this piece of Oakland. "And your skills for making sweets?" Steph asked, biting into one of the brigadeiros he had bought. The flavor exploded in his mouth. Rich, creamy, perfectly balanced. "This is incredible, Maria. Seriously." Maria's face lit up with genuine pride. "My grandmother, Grandma Helena, she had a small confectionery in Salvador in Bahia. When I was a child, I spent all my vacations with her, learning recipes that she had learned from her mother, who had learned from her mother. Each sweet has a story, you know? How is it possible that family traditions can become bridges between such different worlds?" Steph was beginning to understand that he wasn't just buying sweets. He was participating in a cultural tradition that crossed generations, connecting rural Brazil with the urban streets of California. "When I came to the United States 12 years ago," Maria continued, "I brought these recipes with me like a treasure. I thought that maybe one day I could open my own confectionery after establishing my career as a nurse. Life doesn't always go as planned, right?" Tyler Brooks, the young cyclist from before, returned with 2 friends. "Guys, you have to try these sweets," he said to them. "They're perfect." The 3 bought several items, and Steph observed how Maria treated each young person with maternal patience, explaining the different flavors and suggesting combinations. "But maybe this is better," Maria said after the young people moved away. "Maybe the universe is preparing me for something different. During these months making sweets on the street, I learned a lot about people, about business, about myself." Daniel Patel, a well-dressed man who seemed to be returning from lunch, stopped, and was visibly impressed with the quality of the sweets. "Have you ever thought about selling to restaurants or cafes?" he asked Maria. "These are professional quality." Maria smiled. "One day, maybe. For now, I like the direct contact with people." "And what did you learn about yourself?" Steph asked, genuinely curious about Maria's journey of self-discovery. Maria paused, placing a protective hand over her belly. "I learned that I'm stronger than I thought. That dignity doesn't come from your job title, but from how you choose to face challenges. That my value isn't determined by my salary, but by the quality of what I offer to the world." The philosophical depth of this reflection hit Steph like a revelation. Here was someone who had found profound wisdom through adversity, who had transformed a potential crisis into an opportunity for personal growth and discovery of inner strength. "And about being a mother?" Steph asked, noticing how Maria frequently touched her belly with unconscious tenderness. "How does that change your perspective?" "Everything changed when I found out I was pregnant," Maria said, her eyes softening. "Suddenly, everything I did was no longer just for me or for Carlos. It was for this little life that's growing inside here. Every sweet I make, every customer I treat well, every dollar I earn honestly, all of this is an investment in my child's future." Christopher Lee, a teacher that Steph recognized from community events, stopped to buy some sweets. "Maria, how are you feeling?" he asked with genuine concern. "You should be resting in this heat." Maria laughed gently. "Professor Lee, you worry too much. Work is good for me. It keeps me strong. But what motivates me most," Maria continued after the teacher moved away, "is showing my child, even before he's born, that obstacles are just opportunities in disguise. That dignity comes from honest effort. That no matter how difficult life gets, there's always a way to create something good, something useful, something that brings joy to other people." The passion in Maria's voice, the conviction behind her words, created a moment of reverent silence. Steph felt that he was in the presence of someone who had found a wisdom that many people spend their entire lives searching for. The understanding that meaning and purpose can be created in any circumstance. "You know," Steph said, "I know very wealthy people who have never found the kind of purpose you're describing." Maria smiled. "Wealth isn't about what you have in the bank, Steph. Wealth is waking up every day knowing that you're doing something that matters, something that makes someone's life a little better. By that measure, I feel very wealthy." At that moment, a gentle breeze passed through the corner, bringing temporary relief from the oppressive heat. Maria closed her eyes briefly, enjoying the fresh sensation against her skin. When she opened them again, there was renewed determination there. "There's something else I want to tell you, Steph," Maria said, her voice taking on a more intimate tone. "Something I've never told anyone, not even Carlos. Something about why I really do this every day." Steph felt that he was about to hear something that would change not only his understanding of Maria's situation, but possibly his own perspective on purpose, dignity, and what really matters in life. Great truths often emerge not through grand pronouncements, but through silent confessions shared between strangers who become friends in moments of mutual vulnerability and recognition of the shared humanity that connects all people, regardless of their circumstances. Maria dos Santos looked around the busy corner, making sure no customers were approaching, and then leaned slightly closer to Steph, as if she were about to share a sacred secret that she had kept in the depths of her heart for months. "Steph," she began, her voice dropping to almost an intimate whisper. Every morning, when I wake up at 5 o'clock to make these sweets, before lighting the oven, before separating the ingredients, I put my hands on my belly and talk to my baby. You can perceive that the deepest moments of human experience often happen in the silences between words, in the spaces where vulnerability meets trust. Steph felt that he was being honored with a confession that few had heard. I tell him, Maria continued, her hands unconsciously moving to her prominent belly. I say, my little one, your mommy may not be rich, may not have a fancy job in a beautiful office, but your mommy will never let you go without. Your mommy will always find an honest way to take care of you. The devastating simplicity of that daily promise hit Steph like an emotional wave. Here was a woman making a declaration of love and commitment to a child who hadn't even been born yet. A promise she renewed every day through her actions. Robert Kim, the local merchant who had greeted Steph earlier, passed again and waved to Maria. Maria, do you need water? It's very hot today. She smiled gratefully. I'm fine, Mr. Kim. Thank you for worrying. The genuine concern of the community for Maria was evident, and Steph began to understand that she had become more than a sweet seller. She had become part of the neighborhood's extended family. But there's more, Maria said, her voice gaining an intensity that made Steph lean even closer. I tell my baby, when you're born, you'll see that your mommy didn't give up, that when life got difficult, your mommy didn't sit down and cry. Your mommy got up, put on her best clothes, made the most delicious sweets she knew how to make, and went out into the world with dignity. The strength behind these words was almost physical in its intensity. Steph could visualize Maria in her kitchen in the early morning hours, talking to her unborn child while creating something beautiful and delicious with her own hands. Do you know what else I tell him? Maria asked, tears beginning to form in her eyes, but tears of determination, not sadness. I say, my child, in the world where we live, some people will judge you by where you were born, by the color of your skin, by the money your family has. But I want you to learn from a young age that your value doesn't come from these things. Anthony Zhang, the engineer who had bought sweets earlier, returned with his wife. Maria, my wife wanted to meet you. I told her about your incredible sweets. Anthony's wife, an elegant Asian woman, greeted Maria warmly in broken Portuguese, clearly having made some effort to learn a few words. Maria was visibly moved by the gesture. Your value, Maria continued after the couple moved away, comes from the work of your hands, from the kindness of your heart, from the way you treat other people. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, famous or unknown. What matters is whether you leave the world a little better for having passed through it. How is it possible that someone in such challenging circumstances could have such a profound and inspiring life philosophy? Steph was beginning to understand that he wasn't just hearing about motherhood or business. He was receiving a master class on dignity, purpose, and fundamental values. And then, Maria said, her voice breaking slightly with emotion, I put my hands on the hot stove. I mix the brigadeiro batter. I shape each sweet with care. And I think, each of these sweets is made with love. Each one is a small part of the heritage I'm leaving for my child. Tyler Brooks, the young cyclist, passed again, this time alone. Hi, Maria. How's the baby today? She smiled. Very active. I think he can smell the sweets and wants to try them, Tyler laughed. He already has good taste. The lightness of these interaction moments showed how Maria had created a network of genuine connections in the community. "But there's one thing I've never told anyone," Maria continued, her voice becoming even softer, more intimate. "Not even Carlos, because I don't want to worry him more than he's already worried." Steph felt his heart accelerate, sensing that he was about to hear the emotional core of Maria's entire story. "Sometimes, when I'm here in the heat, when my feet are hurting, when I feel the baby is too heavy, I get scared," Maria admitted. "I get scared that maybe I'm not strong enough, that maybe I can't give my child everything he deserves." Connor Smith, the passerby from before, passed once more, this time bringing his elderly mother. "Maria, this is my mother. I told her about your quindins. They're her favorite specialty." The older woman spoke in Spanish with Maria, who responded fluently, and Steph observed how Maria instantly connected with the lady, treating her with the special reverence reserved for elders. "But then," Maria continued after Connor and his mother moved away, "I touch my belly and feel my baby moving, and I remember that strength isn't about never being afraid. Strength is about being afraid and choosing to continue anyway. It's about doing what needs to be done, even when it's difficult." The depth of this understanding about true courage resonated deeply with Steph. As a professional athlete, he understood the difference between absence of fear and courage despite fear. But hearing this wisdom from Maria, in her circumstances, gave him a new perspective on what truly constitutes bravery. "And there's one last thing I tell my baby every morning," Maria said, clearly preparing for the most important confession. "The thing that keeps me strongest when I want to give up." Steph leaned even closer, feeling that he was about to hear words that would not only break his heart, but possibly change his perspective on purpose, family, and what really matters in life. "I tell him," Maria began, her voice trembling with emotion, "my little prince, your mommy is doing this because she wants you to know, from before you're born, that you are loved, that you are wanted, that you're worth every effort, every sacrifice, every drop of sweat. I want your first memories to be of a mommy who never stopped fighting for you." Tears began to flow freely down Maria's face, but they were tears of pure love, of maternal determination, of a connection that transcended the physical circumstances of her situation. "Because Steph," she continued, looking directly into his eyes, "I grew up without knowing my father. My mother worked 3 jobs to support us, and she was strong. But she never had time to tell me I was special, that I mattered, that I was worth it. I promised myself that my child will never question whether he is loved." The revelation about her own childhood created another layer of understanding about Maria's motivation. She wasn't just trying to survive economically, she was trying to break a cycle, create a new family narrative, give her child something she herself had never received. "So, when people pass by here and see a pregnant woman selling sweets on the street," Maria said, her voice gaining strength, "they might think it's sad, that it's desperate. But I want you to know the truth. This isn't a sad story. This is a love story. Every sweet I sell, every dollar I earn honestly, every smile I share with a customer, all of this is an act of love for my child." Diana Thompson, the woman with children from before, returned alone. "Maria, I couldn't stop thinking about your sweets. My children are begging for more." While Maria prepared a new bag of sweets, Steph observed how she radiated genuine joy at seeing that she had created positive memories for a family. And do you know what the most incredible part is? Maria asked after Diana moved away. I'm discovering that when you do something with true love, with real purpose, the universe responds. People feel the difference. They're not just buying sweets, they're participating in something bigger. Steph felt something fundamental move in his chest. Maria's words had touched something deep about purpose, about how small acts done with great love can have impact that goes far beyond their immediate circumstances. Maria, Steph said, his own voice now loaded with emotion. You just taught me something about purpose that I had never completely understood before. But then Maria said something that would completely break Steph's heart and change not only the rest of his day, but possibly the trajectory of several lives. Steph, she said, looking directly into his eyes with devastating honesty, I just hope that when my child grows up and asks about this time, when he asks why his mommy was selling sweets on the street when he was still in her belly, I can tell him, my child, I did this because every day you were inside me. I wanted to make sure you knew you were loved enough for your mommy to do anything honest to give you the best life possible. Great truths about maternal love are often revealed not through grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but through the silent determination to make daily sacrifices, to find dignity in adversity, and to transform each action, no matter how small, into an expression of unconditional love that will last for generations. The silence that followed Maria's words hung in the hot Oakland air like a silent prayer, carrying with it the weight of a truth so pure and devastating that Steph felt as if his heart had been simultaneously broken and rebuilt by something greater and more powerful than he had experienced in a long time. You can feel that there are moments in life when you witness something so authentic, so fundamentally good, that it changes not only how you see a specific situation, but how you understand human nature and your own role in the world. Steph was experiencing exactly that kind of transformative moment. Maria, Steph said, his voice barely managing to emerge through the emotion that had taken hold of him, do you have any idea how extraordinary what you just shared with me is? Maria tilted her head slightly, a gentle expression of confusion crossing her face. I don't think it's extraordinary, Steph. I think it's simply what any mother would do for her child. It's love, that's all. The simplicity with which she dismissed her own strength as something common only amplified the emotional impact of her story for Steph. Here was someone who was doing something truly heroic every day, and genuinely didn't see it as anything special. Kevin O'Connor, the construction worker, passed again, this time with two colleagues. Guys, you have to try Maria's sweets. They're the best in the city. The three men bought several items, and Steph observed how Maria treated, each of them with genuine joy and interest in their lives. Maria, Steph said after the workers moved away, may I ask how much you normally make in a day doing this? Maria hesitated for a moment, clearly not accustomed to discussing her finances with strangers. It depends on the day, she said cautiously. On a good day, maybe $50, $60. On a bad day, maybe 20 or 30. It's enough to buy ingredients for the next day and contribute a little to household expenses. The modesty of that amount, in contrast to the magnitude of effort and dedication that Maria put into her work, hit Steph like a punch to the stomach. $60 for 7 hours of work under the scorching sun, in the final months of pregnancy, creating something beautiful and delicious with her own hands. And how much do you need to feel secure? Steph asked gently. To not worry about basic bills? Maria laughed softly, but it wasn't a bitter laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had learned to find peace even in challenging circumstances. Steph, financial security is relative, right? If I could earn $100 a day consistently, that would completely change our life. We could pay all the bills, save for when the baby is born, maybe even start dreaming about our own confectionery one day. Marcus Williams, the young man who had recognized Steph earlier, returned with his girlfriend. Man, you have to meet Maria. She makes the best sweets and is the nicest person you'll meet. Marcus's girlfriend, a young Latina, immediately connected with Maria, talking in Spanish about family recipes and culinary traditions. While Maria talked with the young couple, Steph stepped back a few steps, pulled out his phone, and quickly typed a message to Ryan Johnson, his personal assistant. "Ryan, I need you to come to the corner of Telegraph and 51st right now. Bring your checkbook. It's urgent, but it's not a medical emergency. Just come." "Maria," Steph said when she finished, talking with the couple, "I have an important question for you. If someone wanted to invest in your business, if someone wanted to help you expand what you're doing, would you accept help?" The question caught Maria by surprise. She frowned slightly, as if she were processing not only the words, but the implications behind them. "It depends on the type of help," she said carefully. "I don't accept charity, Steph. My dignity is not for sale. But if someone wanted to make a fair business, partnership, if they wanted to invest in something I could build and expand with my own work, that would be different." The emotional intelligence behind that response impressed Steph deeply. Maria had clearly distinguished between charity that would undermine her autonomy and investment that would expand her opportunities, keeping her dignity intact. Tyler Brooks passed once more, this time stopping to talk longer. "Maria, my mother wants to know if you make birthday cakes by order. My little sister's birthday is next week." Maria smiled. "Of course. I'd love to make a special cake for her. What flavor does she like?" "Maria," Steph said, after Tyler moved away with the cake details, "may I be completely honest with you about something?" "Please," she replied, her expression becoming more serious. Steph took a deep breath, knowing he was about to reveal his identity and potentially completely change the dynamics of their conversation. "Maria, my full name is Steph Curry. You might know me from basketball. I play for the Golden State Warriors." Maria blinked several times, processing this information. Slowly, recognition began to form in her eyes. You are Steph Curry? The Steph Curry?" She put a hand over her heart. "Oh my God, my husband Carlos is your biggest fan. He watches every game." "Maria," Steph said quickly, "this doesn't change anything about our conversation, or about who you are, or about the respect I have for you. Actually, it makes everything more meaningful. You treated me like a normal human being. You shared your story with me without knowing who I was. That tells me everything about your character." Steven Rodriguez passed by bicycle again, this time doing a double take when he noticed Steph. But following Marcus's example, he simply waved and continued, respecting the moment. "Steph," Maria said, still processing the revelation, "I don't understand. Why did you stop to talk to me? Why do you care about my story?" "Because your story reminded me of something I sometimes forget," Steph replied. "It reminded me that greatness isn't about how many points you score or how many trophies you win. Greatness is about how you face adversity, how you treat other people, how you find ways to serve and love, even when circumstances are difficult." Daniel Patel, the well-dressed man from before, returned with a business card. "Maria, I talked to some colleagues about your sweets. We have 3 cafes that would like to talk to you about regular supply. Would you be up for a meeting?" Maria was visibly excited about the opportunity. "And there's another thing," Steph continued. "Your story about talking to your baby every morning, about wanting him to know he's loved, that touched me in a way I can't completely explain. My wife Isha and I have children, and your words reminded me of what really matters about being a father." At that moment, Ryan Johnson arrived, clearly confused but following Steph's instructions. Steph briefly introduced him to Maria and then stepped aside a few steps to talk to him privately. "Ryan," Steph said in a low voice, "I want you to write a check to Maria dos Santos for $10,000. It's not charity. It's an investment in her business. I also want you to arrange a meeting with our accountant to help her establish a proper LLC to expand her sweet business." Ryan, accustomed to Steph's generous impulses, didn't question. "Anything else?" "Yes," Steph said. "I want you to find the best commercial confectionery available for rent in Oakland and arrange a meeting for Maria to see the space, and hire a lawyer to help her with all the legal aspects of expanding the business." When Steph returned to Maria, she was talking with Christopher Lee, the teacher, about the possibility of supplying sweets for school events. The community support network that had formed around Maria was evident and inspiring. "Maria," Steph said when she finished the conversation, "I want to make a proposal to you. Not as charity, but as a business investment. I believe in what you're building here, and I want to help you expand." He explained about the check, about the commercial space, about the legal and accounting support. Maria listened with her eyes filling with tears. "But why?" she asked. "Why would you do this for me?" "Because you taught me something important today," Steph replied. "You taught me that true purpose doesn't come from how much success you have, but from how much love you put into what you do. You transformed selling sweets on the street into an act of maternal love. That's inspiring in a way I never expected to find." Connor Smith returned with his mother, who now brought other ladies from the neighborhood. "Maria, we want to make a large order for our church meeting on Sunday. Can you make 50 assorted sweets?" The joy on Maria's face was radiant. "And there's one last thing," Steph said. "When your baby is born, when he grows up and asks about this time, you can tell him, 'My child, your mommy was selling sweets on the street because she loved you so much that she was willing to do anything honest to give you a better life. And one day, a kind stranger recognized that love and decided to invest in your mommy's dream.'" Maria began to cry, but they were tears of gratitude, of relief, of renewed hope. "Steph, I don't know how to thank you." "You don't need to thank me," Steph said. "You need to continue being exactly who you are. Continue making sweets with love. Continue treating each customer like family. Continue being an example for your child that dignity and honest work are the most important things in life." When Steph finally said goodbye to Maria that afternoon, he knew that his life had been changed as much as hers. He had left home that morning as a successful basketball player, but was returning as someone who had witnessed and participated in something much more significant: the transformation of lives through mutual recognition of human dignity and the power of unconditional love. 6 months later, Maria's Sweets had become one of Oakland's most beloved confectionaries, supplying dozens of cafes and restaurants, employing 5 people, and continuing to be a symbol of how dignity, honest work, and love can transform not only individual circumstances, but entire communities. And every day, Maria still talks to her son, now born and healthy, about how a mother's love can move mountains, create opportunities, and attract unexpected blessings when you remain true to your values and never give up on your dreams. Great acts of kindness often begin with small moments of mutual recognition of shared humanity, proving that when genuine hearts meet, the impossible becomes inevitable, and lives are transformed forever through the simple but profound power of seeing and honoring the dignity in every person we encounter.